Welcome inside episode 522 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitt, and in what is today the heart of enemy territory in downtown Winnipeg, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains, as we mentioned, a Sens game day, and not only that, but a Sens debut for Travis Hamonic.
And a milestone game for Hammonic, his 700th. So there's a good veteran defenseman being added to the back end. And Belleville Senators come off with a huge win, not in regulation like I hoped, but a huge win in the shootout up against Laval. We'll tell you who got the winner.
A big game for Belleville, a good game tonight for Ottawa, but a do-or-die game for the Nodak Sens. We'll tell you what's going on in the NCAA tournament and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Thursday, March 24th in Pilsy. Debut with the new team, milestone game in his hometown. No pressure, Travis Hammonic.
I mean, the Sens are rolling out the red carpet for him, it looks like here. And it looks like from what DJ Smith has said, Hammonic will take Michael Del Zotto's spot on that third pair with Victor Mete. So we'll see how that turns out. I mean, that's an interesting spot for him to start. But I think kind of like Joseph, you're going to start him in a lower role to see how he does and get him acclimated and then see maybe if he can move him up. Because it's my impression, Ross, that the Senators have Travis Hammonic pegged as a top four guy. And it certainly seems like they paid the price and are willing to pay the cap and signing bonus that would make him worth being a top four guy.
Yeah, we're going to get into expectations a little bit more, but you said it. He's playing the right side on the third pair. That's where MDZ was in his return to Ottawa's lineup. However, he was all over the ice when it compared to the other defensemen and players. It was a real stinker against the Islanders. Can't sugarcoat that. But he said he hasn't decided. As we're recording here just after noon Central Time, the time zone where we'll have tonight's game, 8 p.m. Eastern, if you're watching tonight on TSN. But Pilsy, the Mete MDZ, like it has to be MDZ in the lineup if I'm the head coach and you're saying best players play. Like he was one of their only bright spots against the Islanders.
Yeah, but does that mean you think DJ Smith would take Zaitsev out of the lineup?
No, Mete. It's one of Mete or Del Zotto.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it's going to be Del Zotto. We don't want it to be, but I think that's how it's going to look here. Although, why play Mete at this point when you're not showcasing him for a trade anymore, and you're probably not going to re-sign him? So,
and we're going to get to Winnipeg,
MDZ and Hammonic.
We'll get to the Jets too. They're a big physical team, and not that Del Zotto gives you that much more, but I think you already have Brandstrom in the lineup, and you know that there's a lot of similarities between him and Mete in terms of stature. I'd want to get MDZ and get a little extra experience because if he's in, he's the only guy in the lineup who has more games than Travis Hammonic in tonight. So Travis Hammonic, expectations for tonight. Like, what do you want to see? A nice, simple game, or are you looking for anything in specific?
Well, we've been told he's going to be a good shutdown guy, right? So let's see how he does in his own end defensively. Let's make sure he's not getting targeted for dump and chases, and he's able to corral the puck and make a good first pass out there. And if he is with Mete or Michael Del Zotto, I mean, Michael Del Zotto was supposed to be a shutdown guy for the Sens too, but we've seen his offense light up in Belleville. So maybe it's a yin and yang if he does play with MDZ that he can help Del Zotto be the offensive guy and he can kind of take care of the responsibilities in his own end and let Del Zotto join the rush and things like that. So overall, what I want to see from Hammonic is don't make any glaring errors. Like, not due to any of his fault of his own. There's a lot of eyes on Hammonic and being like, all right, why did the Sens pay this price for this player at this time? Make sure there's not glaring mistakes where it's like, oh man, the Sens messed this one up again. Just have a good, simple game where even if it's a game where it's like, hey, I didn't really notice him, I think for him, that'd be all right.
Yeah, it's not that he's an offensive defenseman or ever really has been. He had a couple of good seasons on the island where you expected like 30, 35 points every year. And we already talked about how Calgary paid a first and 2 seconds to get him at the 2017 deadline or draft, whenever it was. Maybe it was an offseason trade. But this guy, he's got a pedigree around the league as being a capable shutdown defenseman. But that's a reputation that's waned over the last 3 years, I would say, is probably the time span we're looking at where he hasn't been the defenseman that he had gained that reputation for. So for me, it's just simple plays. I don't want to see the off the glass and out like Zaitsev does.
Yeah.
If you're paying a guy $3 million, it should be on the forward stick with speed out of the zone. And we'll get to how the Sens have kind of handcuffed themselves with speed up front and how they could maybe accelerate that a little bit more. But with Travis Hamonic, we know tonight it'll likely be either Del Zotto or Mete, whoever's in the lineup. And again, I'm going to have some questions if it's not Del Zotto based on the best players play. But let's live in a world where Sanderson's healthy and signed. Let's live in a world where Chabot is healthy. Let's say that magical situation happens for the last 5 games of this season, which is unlikely. But if it does, who would be your ultimate partner for Travis Hamonic?
So my top pair would be Chabot Zub.
Yep.
Second pair, I kind of want to get Sanderson with Zub though. Yeah, okay, let's go Chabot Hamonic. I mean, okay. Hamonic, he's touted he could play with Quinn Hughes. There's nothing to lose this season. Get him with Thomas Chabot, see if he can handle that. Second pair, Sanderson Zub. And then final pair, Holden Branny.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And Branny on the right side where we've seen him excel in the past. For me, and I'm going to be boots on the ground, I want to be impressed. People are saying that we're negative. We're not giving him a chance. I'm going to be eyes glued to Travis Hamonic, number 23.
Glued on player.
Glued on player. Stay tuned for Locked On Player. I'm going to go a different direction because I can't take the low-hanging fruit 2 games in a row. I took Mathieu Joseph on Tuesday.
Low-hanging fruit is still nutritious, man. It's still good stuff.
It certainly is. It's but that to say, I hope that he makes an impact. And let's put it this way. If a player gets hit as hard as Joseph got hit in the last game, Travis Hamonic better have the eject button ready on his gloves.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Did you see that he fought Brady Tkachuk last year?
Yeah. How did that fight go? I didn't watch it, though.
Shout out Everyday Sens for posting. The clip was just perfect because the audio was, we're 5 minutes into the game and Chabot's played 3.5. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a Senators game. But it wasn't like a Scott Lawton situation. I was a bit worried it would be, where you're like, oh my God, you brought in a guy who hates Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Brady absolutely steamrolled a Vancouver forward in the neutral zone, and Hamonic stood up for his teammates. So I respect that, and I hope that we get that toughness, that grit. He's going to be playing in front of a lot of friends and family tonight, being in Winnipeg where he grew up, and I'm excited to give him a chance. And if his debut is anything like Mathieu Joseph's debut that we saw on Tuesday, I think Sens fans can start to see a bit of the ray of sunshine behind the clouds right now. Their judgment isn't wrong based on what we're hearing from the team he came from, but we've seen situations where players take off in different roles, and maybe it just wasn't a good fit there. So I'm excited to see it give a chance. I have my doubts, but I also have a little bit of excitement to see where it can go, because if he can pan out, the right side on defense certainly needed an upgrade. So hopefully, if he's better than Josh Brown, I'll be happy tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And if it ends up being a scenario where the coaching staff says, hey, look, I realize we're trying to get out of Zaitsev's contract, but I need a right-hand veteran guy, and Hamonic replaces Zaitsev, then I think everyone's going to be happy about that, at least Sens fans. Not only is it a lesser contract, less money, less term, and hopefully better player, but I think Hamonic, that's the thing. Like, you can say what you want, you can read the reports, you can make your own opinion about him as a person or as a player, but until he plays at least 1 game with the Sens, we need to at least give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, so let's do that. Travis Hamonic debut tonight, wearing number 23, starting on the third pair. I will be shocked if he is not on the penalty kill as well, as that's kind of the role that I depict him at. We'll have a full preview later on. We'll pull up the graphics with the lineup, both for the Ottawa Senators and Winnipeg Jets. Of course, I got a little insight to the Jets being in Winnipeg as well. We'll touch on all of that. We've got another card giveaway too. So check out @SensCentral on Twitter. This is a good one for all you card lovers out there. And shout out @Fighting Stutzla, Dylan, for supplying the cards for us. It's a Chris Neil autograph card. So if you want a chance to win that, you can go and retweet. Make sure you're following all the right accounts and you're subscribed on Locked On Senators YouTube page, and you could be the winner of a Chris Neil autograph card. Still lots of great giveaways to come throughout the rest of the season. We want to keep the fan base as engaged as possible, despite the record not going Ottawa's way, as they have 2 wins in their last 10 games as of right now. We also want to touch on the fact that we will be in Ottawa for the last Saturday game, Pilsy. Looking forward to that. And are we doing a meetup or what? What stage are we at?
Absolutely. Well, we were at the gauge interest stage. And thanks for everyone on Twitter who tweeted at Send Central or replied to the tweet saying, hell yeah, I'm in. When and where. Like, I was blown away with the immediate, like, yep, tell us the details. So now that we have interest and we kind of gauge how many people are down for this, we're now into phase 2, the planning stage. So if you guys have suggestions of bars or restaurants or establishments that could house that kind of meetup, like where we could rent a back room or something and everyone can get in and we can all eat wings and drink some beers and then head on over to the game, that would be perfect. If you guys have ideas of fun things we can do to make the meetup better, we also have just a little bit of a tease. We're in the original stage of our merch, maybe some merch coming out. So be aware of that. If you have ideas about merch, let us know. We just want to hear your ideas and make this event as fun as possible for all of us, because Ross just said it. This team has won 2 games in forever. Let's just all have fun together, meeting up. And then the plan is we're all going to get tickets in the same section. So book that day off work, book the next day off. You might need a morning to recover, but make sure you're available for April 23rd up against the Habs, because that is final. That is the date we've chosen. And we're going to keep you guys updated on how this goes.
I sold the Sens short. They have 3 wins in their last 10 games, but they also have 3 wins in their last 13 games. And they've scored 28 goals and allowed 48. So they've got a minus 20 goal differential. I'm banking on a big one tonight. And later on in the show, I want you to help pick which jersey I rock for the game. You're going to shoot us a note in the comments. Whichever one gets the most likes will win. And I'll rock that to I almost got the MTS Center, to the Canada Life Center tonight for the game. Boots on the ground. I know Nick Anderson. I know Chris Stamers. You guys are going to be at the game tonight. Shoot me a note. We'll have a beer at intermission. Looking forward to that. And appreciate it, too. We're the show by fans for fans. So exactly what Pilsy said goes. And another reason why we can bring you this show free and available Monday through Friday is great sponsors like BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the best spot for all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, and they even have fun props too, like where the next fired coach is going to land. You have to check it out right now at betonline.net. It's the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. It remains the best spot as well for your sports scores, podcasts, and news throughout the entire season. They've got college hoops, they've got hockey, they've got pro hoops, of course, boxing, UFC. Everything you need to wager on is right there. The Sens are 5 straight wins when I'm in the building, so you know I'm hammering the Sens money line tonight. So head to the website today, betonline.net, or use your mobile device as well to learn more about the trends and action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Pilsy, so you mentioned Belleville. We'll touch on them, North Dakota, both in a moment, but Elliot Friedman, his 32 thoughts, which is always must-read material when it comes out after the deadline, where he's getting scoops of what almost happened, what could happen in the summer. Let's start with what almost happened. And it sounds like Colin White was nearly a Montreal Canadian. Huh?
Yeah, well, as Elliot points out, the connection is there. Kent Hughes was his agent that got him this contract with the Ottawa Senators. So it's so interesting having an agent be a GM now, because now all those things he was pushing for as an agent, telling GMs like, oh, that's not leverage, you can't use that, that's not going to bring this contract down. Well, now he's got to be on the GM side of that, so I think that's going to be very interesting. But he's someone that knows Colin White personally. He knows all the nitty gritties of his stats. He would have used those in negotiations for sure. And I'm sure he believes that Colin White has a lot of potential left. So that's someone that he targeted for his team. And what this trade would be so interesting to me, Ross, because how could the Montreal Canadiens give the Senators a better way out of this contract than the buyout option? Because the buyout option is very attractive at just 1/3 of the cost instead of normally, I believe it's 2/3, right?
Yep.
So half the cost, and you're only, I think it's 6 years left at like, it would be 6 extra years at
Right,
like
right.
800,000 cap hit if you bought him out. So sure, it's 6 years long, but that's so minimal. Like that's an entry level contract on your team every year, and you're out from the white contract. So I really am interested to hear. I don't think we'll ever hear it, but what would have been on the table to bring Colin White to Montreal? What Montreal would have offered?
Yes, well, Elliot Friedman says it might be revisited in the summer, but for now, Colin White's the number one right winger
Colin
on
White
this
is
team.
here, as Dorian said.
Yeah, that was not a ringing endorsement.
He's here.
He's here, and he'll play. Okay, Pierre. All right. So he's not even golfing with Pierre. He's golfing with...
He's the caddy.
He's golfing with Jack Capuano.
Yeah.
All right. So that was the, I don't want to say bad news, but kind of surprising news.
I was surprised, yes.
How about this little trail of cookie mix? Now, it was about as innocuous as Elliot Friedman could have said, but he does believe...
It's literally one sentence.
Claude Giroux is doing his research on Ottawa. So if you're listening to this, Claude, we would really appreciate if you came home after this playoff run. That we wish all the best for you, but come home, buddy. Bring G home.
Just come home. Yeah. Ross, I want to pose this question to you. So he's with the Florida Panthers now, the only team he was going to accept a trade to.
Yep.
Obviously loves what they got going down there. I mean, if you're living in Florida playing hockey, it's sweet if you're on a contending team. I'm of the mind, I want the Florida Panthers to win the cup so badly now, because let's get Claude Giroux his cup ring. Now he can say, okay, I got my cup ring. Now I can just go to the Sens. I don't have to have that pressure of being like, oh, I need a Stanley Cup before I retire. He's got it. So that pressure's gone. And now he can be like, I'll be a good mentor for these kids. I'll help them get into the playoffs. I think if you act like Claude Giroux, for me, honestly, is my number one target this year, even before a top defenseman. Or
even before Kevin Fiala, who I know you're super high on?
Yep, before Kevin Fiala, 100%. There's no player available or that's going to be available that I want more than Claude Giroux, because he fits so many of the things I'm looking for. Veteran guy, a guy that can play the wing, but also take face-offs. So let's say Timmy's not quite at a level where he's comfortable being the face-off guy. Put him on a line with Giroux. Giroux takes the draws for him if need be, right? He's a hometown guy. He's someone that would want to be there. He's someone that has a lot of playoff experience, and he's someone that's still got gas in the tank. Like, this guy's still putting up big points. Like, it's not like he's just a big name that was good 3 years ago. He's still a major player. So I think it would be absolutely amazing. I think we look great in a Sens jersey. So hopefully Florida wins a cup. He's satisfied, and he says, all right, I'm going to bring it home now.
Shout out to our friends at betonline.net. They have the Florida Panthers with the second best odds of winning the Stanley Cup behind. Who do you think's first?
Tampa.
No, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can get Tampa at plus 900. That might be a fatigue thing where they're like, how can they really do 3 full runs? And you know what else is? It's going to be dog eat dog in the Atlantic Division. True. And maybe that's why Colorado is first. Whereas, I mean, Florida 650, that they have them as the favorite in the Eastern Conference right now. So there's good thought process to that. Claude Giroux with his second highest goals per game in his career at 34 years old. This is not like bringing in a 35-year-old Alexei Kovalev on a 3-year deal. This guy, and the way he plays, he's so smart. His hockey IQ is his number one attribute. That doesn't go as fast as a fast skater or a guy who just has a rifle of a shot because they can get to those open areas. Like Claude Giroux, I would have no problem at 34 years old this summer giving him a 3-year term. No problem at all.
Honestly, Ross, I would, if he wanted, I would give him that 4th year, knowing you're getting bent over for that 4th year. Like if that's what it costs you to lock him down, I would do that, because even if his play declines, which it probably will in those years,
the 3rd or 4th maybe, but man, he's so good. Like, you don't even have to watch him for long. You know, he has and again, this is the past, but that's what you have to base his future off of. Only 3 players in the NHL from 2010 to 2020 had more points than Claude Giroux.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna find out who they are, but I read that stat and I guess I believe it. But
while you're doing that, I'll just further emphasize, like, even if his play kind of declines, which it's expected to, his mentorship and his experience off the ice, like just being a guy to have in this locker room for guys like Brady, Thomas Chabot, they're in their early 20s and they're the top leaders on this team. they haven't sniffed the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
they need someone that they can rely on, that can mold this group and help give them that veteran experience. That, sure, they brought in guys like Hamonic, like Holden. Those are veteran guys, but not at the same stature and not guys that are contributing to this team like Claude Giroux would. So I'm all in on Claude Giroux. That's got to be the number one target. If he's interested, you got to roll out the red carpet. You got to do everything in your power to have him interested in coming to Ottawa in the offseason.
I just am putting it up on YouTube right now for anybody who's watching, and I am absolutely correct. This is until today. So this isn't even just a 10-year span. This is from the start of the 2010 season until today. Patrick Kane, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, and then Claude Giroux. It's that good of a player. I don't know any fan who I can understand the thought process of being like, no, he's over the hill. He's 34. Don't bring him in.
Wrong.
He would make the Senators so much better. And even just getting that little cookie trail, the little crumbs that I'm going to eat up all over the place, that's enough to get me excited. Now, what he learns in the research will be a different story. But just the fact that the Senators are on Claude Giroux's radar should get fans excited about the future. Alfie's fired up about it. I don't know if you can hear him barking, but Pilsy, it would change the perception of the team around the league more than anything, wouldn't it? It's like, oh, whoa, Claude Giroux went, because people did that even for Dadonov. They're like, oh, Dadonov picked Ottawa. Imagine like a player of Claude Giroux's standpoint.
Honestly,
and another one-way ticket from Florida to Ottawa, the Dadonov Express.
Yeah, no kidding. And a player like Claude Giroux that has 31 teams begging him to look at them as an option, right? I think Dadonov was a highly touted free agent, and at the time, you have to credit the Sens for tracking him down and convincing him to come to Ottawa. But Claude Giroux, like any team, would do whatever it takes to get him. No matter if you're rebuilding, contending, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the kind of guy you want on your team. So
automatically gets an A on his first day at the office.
Oh, 100%. And I would even go so far, Ross, if they sign Claude Giroux, I'm okay with how they're set up forwards. They don't need to get anyone else, in my opinion. I think they can make it work. And then you can start focusing on the decor and possibly goaltending. That's a whole nother issue. So, Claude Giroux, let's go, baby. Let's go.
Yes, let's fire up the Claude Giroux hype train. It would also help a team who's near the bottom of the league in face-off percentage. He's one of the best face-off men in the National Hockey League, has been for the better part of a decade. All right, wake up, Sens fans. The dream's over for now. We'll of course, keep pounding that drum until the day Claude Giroux signs with the Ottawa Senators. But the Belleville Sens were in action. They got a big 2 points. Jake Lucchini is a shootout magician. He did the same move that he did when I was calling the game in Winnipeg, where he comes in, he weaves, but instead of going backhand upstairs, I guess he saw the goalie cheating because he just shot it and it went in, and then Igor does the same move that he did in Winnipeg, but the stick stays intact, and he gets the shootout game winner. You give Laval a point, but Belleville gets an extra one, and then they jump right up. We said it every day, the AHL North standings, you got to have that as a favorite on your homepage, because if you blink, you see a big-time Sparty shuffle.
Yeah, honestly, and that's the thing. I was disappointed that the Senators couldn't keep them out of shootout or regulation, but to get that win was huge. And shout out Steve at Steve on Sens. He was at the game and has a video of that from a great vantage point. And that I'm jealous he got to have that moment, because that was an epic win by Sokolov. Top cheese. What a legend. What a legend, Sokolov.
And man, what a legend, Steve on Sens. We got to meet him at the home opener too. So that was awesome. 29 saves on 30 shots for Mad Sogard. That's awesome to see. And it was a game that was tied at 1 going into the third period. Again, dude, we got former Sens to broad it again, eh?
What do you mean?
The goal for Laval, he's got 2 goals on the year. And the last time he was with Syracuse, he just moved, or no, he must have only 2 goals, only 3 games. Am I right? No. Who was it then? It's Cedric Paquette.
Such a loop there. Oh man,
Cedric Paquette. I thought he scored earlier. Gabriel Dumont scored earlier.
Dumont had a hattie with the Syracuse Crunch.
That's what I was getting confused on, because I saw Cedric Paquette and I was like, wait, again.
He
but
does sound like a
just-
Laval guy, Dumal. That's
he
fair.
just got sent down. So Cedric Paquette gets the lone goal for Laval. Thanks for getting that untangled in my brain. But then Clark Bishop gets the only goal for the Belleville Senators, Wedman and Sabrin with the assist. But at the end of the day, Matt Sogard gets a ton of credit for that victory, in my opinion. Made some great saves in overtime from the highlights. They're still in 6th place right now, Pilsy, but the end of this week is going to be huge for them. And next up, it's Friday night against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton. You see, this was a big game, but then there's enormous games. And let's quickly touch, and we are going to get to a full preview of tonight's game, Ottawa, Winnipeg. Follow at Send Central on Twitter. I'll have boots on the ground content for you tonight there. LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. Again, go retweet that Chris Neal card if you want to be a part of that giveaway, and give at Fighting Stutzla a follow as well. What an absolute beauty. But before we get to that, Nodak sends, baby. It's do or die. After last weekend, missing out on the NCHC tournament, now it's the big thing. You know March Madness, but this is the underrated version of March Madness. It's North Dakota against Notre Dame tonight in the round of 16. Pilsy, if North Dakota loses tonight, their season's over. And Jake Sanderson and Tyler Clevin, if for Tyler Clevin, guarantee for Jake Sanderson, they could be pro hockey players tomorrow.
So, am I reading this right? Are you cheering for a Nodak loss?
No, never.
Okay.
No,
just the way you built that up kind of made it seem like that.
No, but it is something to keep in mind. We are Locked On Senators, although we are Locked On Fighting Senators as well.
I was going to say.
But no, that to say, if it's possible, and I mean, Clevin's back. He served his 1-game suspension in the loss, so he didn't get to play in the next night. But when it comes down to it, I want them to make a run. I love how much their communities allowed us in as well. And that Alex Heinert and Jake Brandt,
Beauties.
That game where they both had the goal, the Nodak Sens are loving it. That's awesome. I'm cheering for them to win, but it is worth noting that if they lose, their season's over.
Yeah, I'm cheering for them to win too, especially because Sanderson's not healthy right now, right? So if they lose, it's not like, sweet, we're going to see Sanderson in the next Sens game. Well, no. So you might as well keep that going, kick it down the can. Hopefully Sanderson gets healthy, they win, and he can play a little bit more for Nodak and then come, because it's a foregone conclusion. He is going to turn pro after this. So there's no rush really to get him here now. And we want, hey, Pierre Dorian likes winners. So let's get a couple more winners in the prospect pool here.
Yeah, with Tyler Clevin, we've discussed this in the past, but from what you've seen, are you leaning towards him turning pro and developing further in the AHL, or going back for his junior season at North Dakota?
I would like for him to go back to North Dakota. I think a third year at Nodak would do a lot of good for Tyler Clevin. He would get an elevated role there. He's got Brad Berry as his coach, a defensive-minded guy. And as I've said before, if he goes to Belleville, Lassie and JPD are still kind of there in those spots. I think it'd be great if we get an opportunity where Clevin stays, and then one of those two, I'm leaning more towards Lassie, graduates to the NHL level, and then there's a little bit more opportunity and experience there for Tyler Clevin to have the following year at Belleville. Either way, it's good, though. Either way, it's good.
Yeah, I just don't want his offensive game that's starting to round out get hindered because he's just trying to survive at the NHL level or AHL even, and play to his strengths and kind of forget about puck carrying. And he still makes the odd bad decision when he's coming out of his own zone. I think that can get cleaned up with one more tour of duty in North Dakota, plus a trip to the Ralph would be that much better Tyler Clevin's still there. We are doing that either way next year, Pilsy. So that's North Dakota tonight. Again, that's a 7 p.m. Eastern start. They're playing in Albany, New York, and Jake Sanderson has traveled with the team, but with a broken hand, we expect him to be out for the next few weeks. We'll get an update of that when we can. All right, let's get an update of the Ottawa Senators. Travis Hammonic talking to the media right now, and the video is 7.5 minutes. So I don't know what those Vancouver Canucks reporters are complaining about. I mean, he's giving you time of day, if you ask me. And I didn't realize he's missing like 12 jibs. He's got the Chris Neal smile and then some. So hard-nosed player. Let's see how he does tonight. Let's get a full preview coming up on Locked On Senators. All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators in action tonight against a red-hot Winnipeg Jets team, a team that is fighting for their playoff lives. They're only 3 points back now, and with Vegas in full free fall mode and now being all sorts of cap capped out too. Shout out.
Daddy issues.
Daddy issues for the Vegas Golden Knights. But that's opened the door for Winnipeg, who got off to a slow start. Even with their new coach, Dave Lowry, they can't string wins together until now. Now they've got 6 wins in their last 10 games, points in 7 of their last 10, points in 9 of their last 12. So this is going to be a tough test for Ottawa. How do you think they can handle it? And what are your keys to victory against the Jets?
Ross, I was looking at Winnipeg's team stats. That's usually where I go to try to find keys for victory, penalty kill, face-off, shots, all that kind of stuff. The Winnipeg Jets are middle of the pack in seemingly every single category. They don't dominate at anything necessarily, and they're not terrible at anything necessarily. They're right there. I feel like they go on hot stretches, then they go on cold stretches. Like you mentioned, they're hot right now. So it's going to be tough for the Senators to cool them down. And for me, my key to victory, and I think it's going to kind of steal your usual go-to, is start strong. Like, if you let this Winnipeg Jets team play their brand of hockey in Winnipeg at home, you're in for a rough night, because they have, as far as I'm concerned, 3 really good lines. And I would argue, on paper, one of the best complete decors in the entire league. Like, they just have all sorts of mixes. You got your offensive defensemen in Pionk and Morrissey. Then you got the defensive guys and Dillon and Schmidt. Like, there's such good pieces all around this team that they're going to be hard to beat. So if you let them come out guns a-blazing first couple shifts and they get a quick goal, I don't know if you can catch up, because this is a team that can just absolutely take the Sens to the ground talent-wise.
Yeah, I know. They battled through a tough first period the other night against Vegas and then just pulled away 4-0 shutout win. And you got to worry about Hellebuyck finding his game. But when you say quick strike offense, man, look no further than my lookout player, Kyle Connor, who is just an absolute goal-scoring machine. Get this, Pillsy. He went 3 games without a point, if you can believe that, in the middle of December. Since then, in 34 games, he has at least a point in 29. At least a point in 29 out of 34 games, and he has 47 points total. So quite a few multi-point games in there. He's got how many on the year? Is he hit 40?
79, if I remember correctly.
He's got 39 goals. I think I'd bet the house he hits 40 tonight.
Yeah, that's probably pretty likely there.
Yeah. And how about for a forward averaging 21.50? They throw this guy out there every situation, and he's an unbelievable talent.
Yeah, and he's reliable, that's for sure, as his consistency is there. And hey, you went with the guy that's absolutely hot right now, so I'm going to go with probably to a lesser extent of Kyle Connor, but not by much, in Nikolai Ehlers. Like, this guy is on an absolute tear. 5 straight games with a goal, and he's gone 6 straight games with points, and he has 9 points in those 6 games. So, like, this guy just gets it done. He's such a threat. I know you loved watching him when you were in Halifax, when he played with the Moosehead.
Talk about a point streak. He had a 35-game point streak with Halifax.
Yeah, like,
is that good?
The kid is absolutely unreal. He's someone that he's a fantasy hockey darling of mine. I make sure to get him every single year, and he never disappoints. So I'm always locked on, or looking out for him, I should say. So he is my lookout player tonight.
Let's get to the Winnipeg Jets lineup. Again, you can follow the Winnipeg Jets through our Locked On Jets podcast. All right, top line is Scheifele, Ehlers, and Wheeler. And I want to touch on Scheifele and Wheeler in a moment. And then second line is Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, and Evgeny Svechnikov. The third line is Paul Stastny between, hey, I know that guy, Zach Sanford, and Mason Appleton. And the fourth line is Dominic Toninato between Jansen Harkins and Adam Brooks. On defense, Morrissey, DeMello, Dillon, Pionk, Stanley, and Schmidt. And the starting goaltender tonight is Connor Hellebuyck. No backup goaltenders on outside of back-to-backs when, you're Connor Hellebuyck, and throughout his whole career, this guy just plays. But they're in a playoff race, and he's going to play every game that he can down the stretch. When you look at this team, you don't see potential playoff team, eh? Like, this is a legit roster.
Oh, okay. I was like, I see more than a potential playoff team, but I see that's what you're saying now. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a team, a city that every year you look at them and they're like, man, they've got all the pieces, but they just can never seem to put it together. And Ross, I know you're a big fan of a Warrior goalie playing all the time and back-to-back starts and stuff, but I'm starting to think that may be a big reason why the Jets can't go far, because Hellebuck is just absolutely gassed by the time they get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say to an extent, man. Like when you look back though at his entire life, like when he played in college, he goes in as a freshman and he starts 24 games out of 30 or out of 32. Then in his second year, he started 29 out of 32 games in college. Then this is what blew my mind. And I spoke with his AHL coach, Keith McCambridge, who, by the way, is an assistant coach at the Vancouver Giants, says Zach Ostapchuk is going to be sick. That being said, when I asked him about Connor Hellebuck being a first-year pro, if you had to guess, first-year pro goalie, 70 games in the AHL, how many games do you think Connor Hellebuck should or would have started?
In the AHL?
Yes, with the St. John's. Shout out all of our Newfoundland listeners.
Yeah.
He was out there with the Ice Caps.
Good old Bies out east. I think that's when he was kind of battling with Michael Hutchison, right? And they were both kind of
It was him and Peter
goalies.
Budaj.
Oh, Budaj. Okay. He had to play most of them. I'm going to say 62 games.
58 out of 72 games as a rookie AHL goalie. And in the last seasons, I mean, they had the shortened season. He played 45 out of 56 games in that shortened season. And then 58 starts, 63. And then get this, the year where, so this kind of goes against your point, because the 1 year Winnipeg made it to the conference final against Vegas, in the regular season, he played in 67 of the 82 games.
Jeez. Okay, but don't get it twisted. I'm not saying he can't do that, he's not a goalie that excels at being like, yeah, that's my net. And
he won the Vezina that year.
Yeah, I'm not putting it against him. I'm just saying at a certain point, when you've got all these miles on you, it compounds, like all these years and years and years and years. And eventually, like he needs to have some sort of support, or he needs to be comfortable having that kind of support, because goalies that go through what he's gone through, it's tough. So I'm interested to see if maybe that's something to look at adjusting in the upcoming years as he's getting older.
Yeah, I think that's extremely fair to say. Now, the last notes I want to get to with Winnipeg before we turn the page to the Ottawa Senators and look at their lineups for tonight and get our locked on player at the end of it is Mark Scheifele. To me, is such an interesting case study because he's at a point per game. He's dominant offensively, but yet I'm looking at the lineup tonight and I'm saying that Josh Norris, if he gets that matchup, will take advantage. We know Josh Norris scores a lot of his goals on the road as well, but Mark Scheifele, like how many guys do you see that are a point per game on a team where most of the guys are like between -5 and +10 pretty much all over the place, and he's a -16. Like, to me, and I always have to clarify, plus minus is a flawed stat, correct. But when everyone else on your team is a certain way and you are way worse or way better, then it starts to pop up some questions. And he's a fan favorite. You see number 55 jerseys all over the place. The first ever draft pick in franchise history. If you want to laugh, go look at his draft day photo because the Winnipeg Jets didn't have a logo yet.
True.
So he's wearing.
They had a logo. They just couldn't release it yet.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
He wore an NHL black and white jersey.
Just a fan of the league.
Just a fan of the league. He's the Rob Lowe of the NHL. But that to say, like, does that concern you? If you're a fan of the Winnipeg Jets, would you be like, hey, why is our number one center so far in the minuses when his left winger is plus 23 better than him?
Yeah, it's got to be concerning. And to be honest, I haven't really been focused on Scheifele's game, so I can't really say how he's doing defensively. But that's a telling stat, and it's got to show something when he's someone that's relied upon in big moments, and other teams are able to score when he's on the ice like that. I'd be interested to see what his Corsi is, just because that's kind of a more fine-tuned way of looking at plus minus. But it's interesting for sure. But they've got Pierre-Luc Dubois insurance, so like if you feel like Mark Scheifele can't quite hold it down as number one guy, Pierre-Luc Dubois is a guy you can slate in there for sure.
Yeah, I got some advanced stats. It's a 55.5% Corsi, so well above 500.
Well, that's good, yeah.
But he's also starting 67% of the time in the offensive zone.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
So you can't, but that's why they went out and got Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's an unbelievable talent. We said we'd sell the farm to get this guy on our team when the trade initially rumors began. But it's a natural fit for him here in Winnipeg. His dad's the assistant coach with the Manitoba Moose, so a little family affair there. But he is a hell of a player. And if I'm the Ottawa Senators, here's a question that'll perfectly transition into it, and it's not their choice. Winnipeg will have last change, but if you're DJ Smith, which line would you prefer to match up against Pierre-Luc Dubois? Would it be Tkachuk, Norris, White, or would it be Stützle, Formanton, and Connor Brown?
So Pierre-Luc Dubois is with Kyle Connor and Evgeny Svechnikov. I would put Stützle's line up against them just because I think Connor Brown can help defensively try to hold off Kyle Connor, and Formanton can kind of go grittiness for grittiness up against Svechnikov, and then you hope that Stützle can try to match up against Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I'm at a point now where quit sheltering Timmy. Like, give him the tough assignments. Who cares if they lose this game and he's getting beat every faceoff? You gotta have those moments and you gotta work through those. Now's the time to give him the tough assignments. So I'm all for that.
Two reasons why I love what you just said. One, DJ Smith believes Tim Stützle can be a part of the Sens PK throughout the rest of the year. That'll be an interesting
get some PK time last game.
Yeah, and then Josh Norris as well. He had one shift last game. Let's see if he gets even more now. Josh Norris was getting a normal shift, but you know what else I love too? That leaves the Scheifele matchup with Josh Norris, and we know that Brady Tkachuk's fought the captain of the Winnipeg Jets before, Blake Wheeler, and I feel like their heavy games can go head-to-head pretty well together. Exactly. So I think that the top six, that's how I'd like to see it play out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can already see we've got the rest of the lines called up. So let's just finish reading that off, and then I have another question for you, our locked-on player, and we'll go from there, as it's a Senators game day recording a little bit later because, of course, the Senators were on the ice later at morning skate. Third line here. We already said the top two. Third line is Chris Tierney between Mathieu Joseph and Adam Gaudette. The fourth line is Dylan Gambrell between Tyler Ennis and Austin Watson. On defense, Brandstrom, Zub, Holden, Zaitsev, and we talked at the start of the show, either Mete or Michael Del Zotto, and Travis Hammonic. In goal, it's Anton Forsberg. Revenge game for Anton Forsberg. Remember that? He was still wearing the Jets helmet, Jets pads when he played against Winnipeg last year. I thought that was hilarious. But this guy has been an absolute stud for Ottawa. Let's hope that Anton Forsberg can have – he has a revenge game every second game. This guy's been all over the place. But glad to see he's found a home in Ottawa for the next 3 years. My question to you, though, is up front. You score no goals against the Islanders. You don't really get much going offensively, yet absolutely nothing changes to the forward lineup. Are you concerned by that, or is it more of a, okay, let's start them like this and maybe throughout the game make some adjustments?
I mean, do they have an extra forward right now? No. Other than mixing the lines, you can't.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think that, but like Joseph was flying against the Islanders, and his two line mates couldn't keep up. So for me, a natural flip, even though he's not that talented offensively, but I think Gambrell's got better wheels. Even Watson, even though he's got feet for hands as well, but his feet move fast. So why not have, and sure, maybe then all of a sudden you're calling Joseph on your fourth line, although I'd argue it's not, but why not have Joseph, Gambrell, Watson? At least get him with guys who can move the puck and keep up with them, because so many offensive chances, maybe not so many, maybe two or three, were thwarted because the puck was either in the skates of Joseph or the guy couldn't keep up on the rush. So I'm just a little disappointed in that.
What I would like to see is get Brady, Norris, Connor Brown, load up that top line. Then Formanton, Stützle, Joseph. Then Tierney, White, Gaudette, and Ennis, Gambrell, and Watson. I'm okay if they stay together. Get Joseph. Try him out on the line with the speedsters in Formanton and Stützle, and get Colin. I think Colin White matches nicely with Tierney and Gaudette because he's a little bit more defensively responsible than those guys. He's not going to be flying by them in the neutral zone with his speed. And he's also got some offensive touch that if they're in the right spot at the right time, he can feed them, or vice versa. They can make something work. So that's how I would line things up. But maybe DJ Smith is still kind of easing Joseph in here and hasn't quite been confident enough to throw him on a top six role or something.
Pilsy, you're locked on player.
My locked on player is going to be Colin White. I think, especially after hearing rumors, he was almost traded to the Montreal Canadiens. You don't get a better opportunity than the top line with Brady Tkachuk and Josh Norris. So can you make good of that, whether it's to keep your job here in Ottawa or to help entice other people to trade you, or just not get bought out, whatever kind of scenario you want to work on that should motivate him. He's put in a spot to succeed right now. So I want to see him absolutely go for it, and I'm going to be locked on to Colin White.
All right, well, I'm staying on that top line because Brady Tkachuk's gone 4 straight games without a point and only has points because he had 2 in it, but only has points in 1 of his last 6 games. 2 assists in that loss against Arizona on home ice, that one, not the 8-5 one in Arizona, but 6 games, -6, 12 penalty minutes, Pilsy, and all of those penalty minutes have been minors. If he wants to get in a tilt tonight, sure, fire yourself up, do it in the first period if you're going to do it, but I've had enough of these minor penalties from Brady Tkachuk. He just needs to clean that up because, as Miss Levitan pointed out, they keep getting scored on when he's in the box, and that's not captain shit right there. So we need some real captain shit tonight. And hey, we don't talk about it, but it's a somewhat of a homecoming for Brady Tkachuk. His mom's whole side of the family is from Winnipeg. His dad was the captain of the Winnipeg Jets in the early 90s. So you know that he said last year too, his grandparents were so upset they couldn't come to the games while he was here. I think we see a Brady Tkachuk big performance tonight, including, calling it right now, a Brady Tkachuk goal.
Love it, Ross. And I'll transition to our final note of the day.
You gave me your locked on. Yeah, you did.
Yep.
Sorry. Yeah, Colin White.
You've got a Brady Tkachuk jersey and
right here.
Walt Tkachuk jersey. So which jersey are we leaning towards rocking tonight for the game?
Well, it's not going to be the Walt Tkachuk.
No, I know that. That was just my tie-in here.
Yeah. So there you go. So there's the Brady Tkachuk one. We'll stick with the black here. We got the old black Daniel Alfredson. So this one, as you can see at the bottom there, it's been worn to a few games. We got the Alfie there with the A.
That's weird seeing the Alfie with the A. That's so weird.
This one I got for $10 at a thrift store at the heart of enemy territory in Toronto. We got the white Alfredson there. I can't believe he was giving this away for $10. Parley was with me. Shout out to all the OG listeners who remember Parley. Great guy still. They had 2 jerseys, $10 each. The other one was the mustard Nashville Predators jersey. But I saw it in the window first, so I got the Sens one there.
He bought the mustard one, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He wanted to get Chemo Tiemann in or Scott Hartnell on the back of it or something. Should have got David Legg one.
That's what I was going to say. Yep.
Sends abroad. So what would your pick be? And then we'll ask people on Twitter as well. I'll cut that little audio and we'll go from there. But what's your choice?
I would go with the black Alfie, just because the Alfie with the A, it's the old new jersey. Yeah. It looks clean, and then you can't disrespect an Alfredson jersey too. So that's what I would go with.
Yeah, I was a Shane Pinto in the lineup away from, because of course North Dakota having such a big game tonight. I was thinking about maybe going with the North Dakota as well, but no, it's got to be a Sens one. And the white jersey's tough too, because Winnipeg's known for their whiteouts. There's gonna be a lot of white in the crowd as well, so you want to stand out a little bit. The black's clean, and yeah, I'm leaning Alfie as well. But if enough people tell me to go with the Brady one, I called a goal for him tonight, so There is that as well. We'll let the listeners decide. We'll also remind everyone, April 23rd, we want to keep pounding away at that, because we want to make this a special event to cap off a year of thanks and gratitude for us, for allowing us to be a part of your routine. Pilsy and I truly cannot thank you enough. The numbers are they're mind-boggling, which is unreal to see. So Pilsy, been a great show. Went a little long, and I think that there's a lot to get excited about tonight. And final, not trivia, but guess. What do you think? And we'll talk about it on the postcast, where you can join us on our YouTube channel. If it's a win, I'll probably just jump on right, leaving the rink, maybe in the Uber home. We'll figure it out. That to say, how many minutes do you think Travis Hammonic plays tonight in his debut?
17 and a half. 17
and a half? I'm going to say 19 and a half. I think he gets, well, maybe if Brady stays out of the box, he'll get off the PK, but hey, we'll see that. But I'm excited to see him again. Number 23. If you're just starting to wonder, like, hey, where the hell is Travis Hammonic? He'll be out there wearing 23. Mathieu Joseph, of course, wearing 21. And we're fired up because this was episode 522. We want to thank everyone for listening. Go follow the show on Twitter @SensCentral, Instagram, LockedOn.Senators, YouTube at Locked On Senators there. And for Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.